Ladies and gentlemen, it's happening again. Read, House Democrats draft a new article of impeachment against Trump. This is January 8th, 2021. I am serious. They want to impeach President Trump for a second time for something he had no role in, something he had nothing to do with, like zero to do with. And what they have such contempt for this man. They are consumed with the most, they're consumed with fury and this seething, apoplectic, utter contempt, dislike, obsession over President Trump. Everything that happens, everything bad that happened somewhere on the planet or within the world or within the country, if it's linked in any way to supporters of President Trump, it's the president's fault, don't you understand? But Flint, when President Obama drank Flint water, did he try to deceive people into drinking water that could get them sick? Did he try to deceive people and in a conniving political stunt try to lure people into drinking water that was poisonous? Did President Obama, when he drank Flint water, was that a subliminal to people to consume this liquid that could get them ill? No, that's not the way Democrats think. Oh, well, I'm a little thirsty. When President Obama presided in the last weeks of his presidency, and over Standing Rock, when that took place, the brutality there, was that President Obama's America? All the movements on the left that started, that are prevalent today, started in the 8 years that President Obama was in office, and they were opposing or protesting the injustices that were taking place during President Obama's administration. Was that President Obama's fault? And so, you have Democratic operatives that were forced to resign in 2016. Democratic operatives forced to, two of them. CNN, and Veritas broke that story, and CNN even acknowledged it. What culpability did the Democratic Party have? You have throughout the 4 years, you have Democratic congresswomen and congressmen, Maxine Waters, telling constituents and other Democrats telling constituents, you have the moral high ground. You can basically condoning the act of confronting individuals. I think the quote was getting in their faces, something like that. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'm going to give you some context and nuance that's lacking in today's world. President Trump is not responsible for everything that takes place if a Trump supporter decides to do something. And again, I oppose what took place. It did nothing for anyone. It was not a good thing. Lives were lost. A woman her life was taken. There was a police officer that lost his life, and two other people lost their lives. So, a total of 4 people. Again, I condemn any activity that's illegal, but I don't condone that. It didn't help anything. But now they're blaming it on President Trump, and every single there's no logic. What I'm trying to tell you is there's no logic. Do you understand? You're dealing with a political party that pretty much has a monopoly on political thought in this country. So hit subscribe to this channel. Let's get to 200,000 subscribers. It's extremely important because my voice and your voice needs to be amplified. There's a virtual monopoly of political thought in this country. You're not going to get Mitt Romney or Ben Sass or even Mike Pence or Mitch McConnell to elevate or to amplify or to communicate your vantage point as a supporter of President Trump. Now, We need to overcome this obstacle. That's one of the reasons Democrats are impeaching President, or going to, or want to impeach President Trump again. Okay, by the way, President Trump stated today he's not going to attend the inauguration, which I wish that he would have. But again, I mean, he's decided not to, and that's probably makes sense. But we need to address, ladies and gentlemen, the logic, the lack of logic that exists. So to all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. So we have to address the lack of logic. If a Trump supporter does something that is horrendous, that is not Trump's fault. Similarly, Democrats we've had $1 billion in property damage plus. Okay, do you think the people that are linked to the $1 to $2 billion in property damage voted Republican or Democrat? Is that Nancy Pelosi's fault? Is that the fault of Chuck Schumer? Is that the anti-police rhetoric from left-leaning organizations, can they be tied to violence and mayhem against police officers? I mean, the thing is, they don't utilize basic logic. And so, but see, supporters of President Trump don't have an avenue or a vehicle or a media apparatus to expose the hypocrisy. You have to elevate like channels like this one, channels that you enjoy that support President Trump. There's a lot on YouTube. I mean, about 15, 16 at most, I think. Not a lot, actually. A tiny number. But, I mean, there are a number of YouTube channels. There are a number of conservative publications, or publications that at least will look at President Trump's vantage point. There needs to be some counter to the media narrative. They have a virtual monopoly of political thought. And political discourse in our country is filtered through the sensibilities of liberal Democrats who have pure contempt and just the most negative emotions towards President Trump, and they have labeled all Trump supporters for the past 4 years these mindless bigots. Trump supporters have not caused $1 billion in property damage. They didn't torch businesses. They didn't torch police buildings or federal buildings. Go after federal buildings. This happened for 5 months prior. See, again, if I bring it up, that is hypocrisy that I'm exposing. But in political discourse within our country, everything that is in some way associated with Trump is infinitely worse. So $1 billion in property damage, curfews, mayhem in the streets for the past 5-6 months prior to the election, that is nothing compared to what happened the other day. That's the way the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN thinks. They don't have any semblance of objective thought. They wanted Trump out from day one, and they were victorious in the media battle. We lost the media battle from day one because we didn't have a unified front. We didn't have Mitt Romney and Ben Sasse and Paul Ryan. I mean, Paul Ryan and John McCain when he was alive. I mean, the dossier was spread not only throughout the country with left-leaning publications championing a fake and phony document, but it was utilized within the United States government. See, what Democrats do is they say, you cheated us, and we're going to actually investigate you through the United States government. They legitimize their tinfoil hat fantasies through government investigations and through media. The Washington Post and the New York Times and CNN and MSNBC, they have a very, very influential and powerful media apparatus, public relations monstrosity. We can't compete with that at this moment. And President Trump, he needs to pardon Julian Assange more than ever. He needs to pardon Julian Assange more than ever, not only to cement his legacy, to save certain elements of his legacy. Because the thing is, you have to, at this point right now, what the way Democrats are so, they have this like feverish, they're in this feverish frenzy to get Trump out of office. And what took place the other day is the culmination of everything that horrendous and ruinous about Trump. And it's like there is no logic or reason. He did not compel anyone or tell anyone to do anything. He didn't incite, he didn't egg on, he didn't do any of those things. But the way, you have to understand the way Democrats and media think in order to overcome this type of obstacle. They think that people didn't vote for President Trump, that 74 million Americans are just mindless drones that don't exist. Supporters of President Trump do not exist to media and to Democrats, and the ones that do are the most horrendous examples of society. The most horrible people. They'll take a picture in D.C. of somebody wearing a horrendous T-shirt, and then they'll ignore the fact that Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, in Israel, condemned AOC for truly anti-Semitic statements pertaining to revisionist history. And I wrote about that in the Jerusalem Post. In my op-ed, I touched upon that. Well, I addressed that issue within the op-ed. And that's on my writing on hagoodman.com. You could read my writing on The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist. You could see my debates. We need to, if Republicans, I'm not a Republican, but I want what President Trump has created to continue. He's created a very, very good political movement. Now, are there missteps? Yes, but record low unemployment, the beginning of détente and peace between North and South Korea. First president to step foot in North Korea, where President Moon Jae-in of South Korea stated that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. We had record low unemployment, which was, throughout most of Trump's tenure was record low unemployment. You wouldn't know this. There's literally no accomplishments according to the left. Do you understand how bizarre that is? He's the only president to allocate more funding. He allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever and made the funding permanent. Nobody knows these things. That's why I repeat myself all the time. Nobody knows these things. USMCA, we had NAFTA. Now we have the USMCA, which is a lot better for American workers. Signed prison reform legislation. Peace deals in the Middle East. Whereas President Obama, and especially Bush, Obama destroyed and turned Libya into a failed state, and Bush turned, upended and, destroyed numerous countries with his failed foreign policy. And, the road to where is paved with good intentions, but Bush and President Obama committed more heinous acts than anything President Trump did, that they're attributing to him even. You have to understand something. All throughout President Trump's presidency, his words compelled horrible things to happen. The same horrible things took place during President Obama's administration. Do you realize that Minneapolis asked President Trump for $500 million? I believe it was $500 million to rebuild. That was not the fault of Trump supporters. But see, there's no context because there's no pushback. There's no pushback on any narrative. Lock down the entire country forever? No pushback from Republicans. Trump impeachment yet again? No pushback from Republicans. The Republican Party is staying far away from President Trump now. There's nobody defending him. And when there's a misstep, is anyone talking about Eric Swalwell falling in love with a literally having a romantic relationship with a foreign operative? Nobody's talking about this. Is anyone talking about Caligula, Biden's son? You have social media. You have algorithms. You have the traditional media. Everything is working in concert to help Democrats. And this is an obstacle that needs to be overcome. We need to surpass these hurdles We need to address these issues. We can't, like people can't, like, the mentality of, oh, all will be okay. Hey, have you heard about this? What's happening in this country? That's not going to help. You need to, like, the best thing you could do right now, and it's not just for this channel, find 5 or 6 or 7 YouTube channels that you like and watch them all the time or support them. And I mean, you probably do that already. But read The Federalist, Just the News, The Daily Caller, The National Review. There's conservative, The Wall Street Journal is fantastic. That's probably the most center-right, it's the only center, maybe center-conservative publication in the country, the most, widely circulated. But I mean, John Solomon is awesome. Sarah Carter, Dan Bongino. I mean, there's so many, like I said, I mean, Tim Pool, Ian Miles Chong, Andy No. These are like 3 of the best journalists in the country. Perhaps, I think, the 3 best journalists in the country. You have to elevate, and look, 74 million supporters of President Trump didn't vote for Trump because there's no media, like, spreading and communicating his viewpoint. I understand that, but now more than ever, we need to elevate the voices that can give nuance and perspective, especially the perspective of supporters of President Trump. We don't exist to media now. Do you understand this? This is dangerous, or it's not good, I should say. The left would say it was dangerous if it was the other way around. They spent 4 years completely ignoring any achievement from President Trump, to the point now where they're completely manic. I mean, they're completely hysterical. This was an example. This was Trump's fault. It had nothing to do with it. Trump didn't tell people to go ahead and do what they did. But you can't reason with people who just view President Trump as this otherworldly creature. Ladies and gentlemen, the next 4 years, the next 2 years could be fantastic. We can go ahead and take back political power. We can build upon the movement that President Trump created. We can create or build upon a more populist movement within the Republican Party. There's no difference between Mitt Romney, Ben Sasse, and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. There isn't any. Look what Mitt Romney, every single Supreme Court pick. Well, I think Romney might turn. Even impeachment. Well, Romney might. I think impeachment, he did side with Democrats. It's unbelievable. So I mean, it's like you never have that on the left. You don't have 2 or 3 or 4 Democrats wavering and maybe they'll side with Trump. It never happened because, like, Republicans like Ben Sasse and Mitt Romney believe that if only a good Republican was elected, that media would give them a fair shake, a fair chance. It would be objective with them. It would be just like prior to President Trump. Those days are over and it'll never happen again. They realize that media, if they can politicize journalism, which they've done beyond belief, that they can then get elections. And they've politicized, there is no objective journalism. What they think, the interesting thing is, like, even the AP and Reuters, and especially the AP, like, every fact check, there's never, how many fact checks have there been for Biden? Very few. You can obsess over, oh my God, you could eviscerate the guy with fact checks. But there's the everything Trump has said for the past 4 years, they've been obsessive and fact check, and they've actually focused on semantics. It's been like a philosophy of language course. They've sliced and diced everything he said, and at the end it was false what he said, even though it was true. There's a CBS Market Watch article basically saying, from a great journalist saying, oh yeah, you know what, about a quarter of all the Washington Post false and misleading statements were actually true. And then what they do is they say it's misleading, he mischaracterized. Well, that's when you make a statement from a certain vantage point, you're making a claim, and then you can back up the claim, and you could begin a discussion or an argument or debate. What they'll do as a fact check is they'll say, fact check, Trump or Trump supporters or allies or whatever claim, mischaracterize, or misinterpret, or they'll say, mischaracterize this. What they're actually saying is they're coming with a vantage point we don't agree with. Here's a rebuttal. And they'll market it as a fact check. A fact check is if a fact is wrong, not, oh, let me give you my liberal vantage point. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. They want to impeach President Trump again for something that he had no role in. He had zero role. The DOJ is not going after President Trump. We live in a country where we used to have free speech. That's the point. There's no pushback. Where are the Republicans defending President Trump? Where have the Republicans been for 4 years? So, I mean, you need to ensure that voices like the politicians like Matt Gaetz, Devin Nunes, Jim Jordan, Ron Johnson, Rand Paul, those politicians take over the Republican Party completely. Because Trump has a 90% approval rating. It might have wavered a little bit with the past couple of days, but he has a 90% approval rating within the Republican Party. No Republican like Jeb Bush is going to get anything close to that. So we need to build upon that and make it stronger. Now is not the time for people to give up. Now is the time for people to peacefully and legally stop saying, hey, did you see what happened here? Did you see what happened there? It's like, you need investigations for the 36-page Peter Navarro report. We need to push. We need to explain to politicians or have there needs to be political will for it to investigate the affidavits, that 1,000 affidavits, and the Peter Navarro report. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Thank you.